Ladies and gentlemen, we've been led to believe that health comes in a bottle, especially when it comes to magnesium. The supplement industry has convinced millions of people to spend top dollar on pills that promise better sleep, stronger bones, smoother nerves, and a healthier heart. But here's the truth. Magnesium isn't meant to be swallowed in isolation. It's supposed to be eaten in real food. And there is one humble, affordable, everyday food that delivers magnesium to your cells far more effectively than most pills ever could. Not only does it cost only a couple of dollars, but your body actually knows what to do with it. Today we're going to expose why expensive magnesium supplements often disappoint and how one simple dietary shift can help restore the biochemical balance your body has been begging for. Because real health isn't bought, it's nourished. We live in a culture obsessed with numbers. Calories, grams of protein, milligrams of magnesium, as if the sheer quantity of a nutrient determines its power. The supplement industry thrives on this misconception. They slap high numbers on a label, 300 milligrams, 500 milligrams, 800 milligrams, and we assume we're buying more health. But biology doesn't work like a gas tank that you fill until full. It works like a symphony, with each nutrient playing its part in harmony. And when it comes to magnesium, that harmony matters even more than you might think. Magnesium isn't some optional add-on to our diet. It is a master mineral that regulates over 600 enzymatic reactions, including energy production, DNA synthesis, blood sugar control, and the communication of every nerve signal in your body. That's not hype, that's basic physiology. If magnesium is missing, the music of metabolism falls out of tune. Muscles cramp, stress skyrockets, sleep deteriorates, and inflammation rises. So the need is real. The problem is how we're trying to solve it. For years, we've been told, if you're low in magnesium, take a supplement. Logical, right? But here's the twist. Much of that supplemental magnesium never makes it into your cells. You might as well be flushing money down the toilet, sometimes literally, given the digestive side effects that many people experience. Supplements may sound scientific, but they often ignore the very science that determines whether your body can use the nutrient in the first place. That scientific concept has a name, bioavailability. It means how much of the nutrient is actually absorbed and utilized by the body, not just swallowed. And when you compare magnesium pills to magnesium found in real food, the difference is striking. To absorb magnesium effectively, your gut needs cofactors supporting nutrients that interact with magnesium to usher it into your bloodstream and then into your cells. Here's the key. Those cofactors naturally exist in whole foods, not in pills. In leafy greens, magnesium sits at the center of chlorophyll, the literal molecule of life. In nuts and seeds, it's packaged with healthy fats that enhance its bioavailability. In legumes and whole grains, it arrives alongside B vitamins and fiber that the microbiome transforms into compounds that improve mineral absorption. Your body recognizes this package. It evolved with this package. It wants this package. Now look at the supplements. Many forms of magnesium sold today, magnesium oxide, for example, have abysmal absorption rates, sometimes as low as 4%. That means if you take a 400 milligrams capsule, only about 16 milligrams is used. The rest becomes, well, expensive waste. Even more bioavailable forms like glycinate or citrate still lack the natural synergy that whole foods provide. They're isolated, extracted, and devoid of the nutrient community magnesium needs to function at peak performance. Think of magnesium like a key. In real food, it comes with the entire lock and door frame, all designed to work together. In a pill, it's just the key. And good luck unlocking anything with a key floating alone in your pocket. This isn't just about absorption. It's about what happens once magnesium gets into the bloodstream. Magnesium needs to stay in the cells where it supports mitochondria, the power plants of life, but stress hormones, high sugar intake, excess caffeine, and alcohol all push magnesium out of cells. And when we mostly consume processed foods stripped of supporting minerals like potassium and zinc, magnesium loses its biochemical allies. It can't perform. It isn't retained. Whole foods solve that problem by restoring the balance. Let's talk about digestion, because that's where magnesium's journey begins. In nature, magnesium often binds to organic acids, helping it dissolve efficiently in the gut. Supplements, particularly cheaper forms, may not fully dissolve. Some draw excess water into the intestines, causing diarrhea, which then leads to even more magnesium loss. The irony is almost comedic. If it weren't so damaging, a pill you take to fix a deficiency may worsen the deficiency. Even the microbiome gets involved. Healthy gut bacteria help regulate mineral uptake, and they feed on real food. They thrive on magnesium-rich fibers found in vegetables, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. When the microbiome thrives, you thrive. Supplements don't feed the microbiome, real food does. Let's consider another vital detail. Magnesium doesn't work alone in the body. It teams up with other minerals like calcium and potassium to keep neurons firing and muscles contracting in appropriate balance. It participates in a constant dance with vitamin D, each enhancing the other's function. This metabolic teamwork doesn't happen by accident. Nature designed these nutrients to coexist in food. When we isolate magnesium into pill form, we break that biological contract. There's also a neurological angle. Magnesium is a natural calcium channel blocker. It calms overexcited brain cells and keeps stress circuits in check. That's why low magnesium levels correlate with anxiety, irritability, sleep disturbance, and heightened pain response. But again, the brain doesn't just need magnesium. It needs the entire nutrient orchestra that whole foods provide to maintain healthy neuronal signaling. When we rely on supplements, we give the conductor a baton, but take away the musicians. So when someone says this supplement contains 300 milligrams of magnesium, the correct response is not great. The correct response is how much of that will I actually use? Bioavailability is the missing metric in the marketing equation. And the data shows that when magnesium is delivered by food, the body uses it up to 16 times more effectively compared to poorly absorbed pill forms. Why? Because the body recognizes food as a partner. It treats supplements as outsiders. We've been conditioned by convenience, by marketing, and by a food system that has divorced us from nature to believe that popping a pill is the solution to every nutrient gap. But health was never built in a factory. It was built in the soil, in the leaves of spinach, in the seeds of pumpkins, in the beans and nuts and grains that fueled human evolution for thousands of years. Magnesium deficiency didn't emerge because supplements were missing from our drugstore shelves. It emerged because real food disappeared from our plates. So yes, we need magnesium, but we don't just need it in mass, we need it in form. We need it in context. We need it delivered the way biology intended. When you eat magnesium-rich whole foods, you're supporting not just a mineral, but a system. You are aligning your physiology with what it evolved to expect. And instead of buying expensive pills with questionable payoff, you can spend a couple of dollars on real food that delivers measurable benefits, not only more magnesium, but more health. The truth is simple. It's not the milligrams you swallow, it's the magnesium your cells receive. Quantity means nothing without quality. Supplements give you numbers. Whole foods give you nourishment. In our quest for health, we must stop asking how much and start asking how well. Because when it comes to magnesium, and truly all nutrition, bioavailability is the real bottom line. We aren't suffering a magnesium deficiency because nature suddenly stopped putting magnesium in food. We're suffering because we stopped eating food and replaced it with what I've long called the food-like substances, the ultra-processed products engineered to be cheap, hyperpalatable, and disturbingly nutrient void. These products fill grocery carts, cafeterias, and lunchboxes every single day. They fill stomachs, yes, but they empty our cells. Magnesium is one of the first nutrients lost during industrial food processing. If you take a whole grain rich in magnesium, fiber, and B vitamins, and grind it, bleach it, soften it, enrich it, and shape it into something shelf-stable, you've essentially stripped away its metabolically essential core. What remains is a carbohydrate, pure energy without the tools to process that energy properly. That's not a small oversight. That's the root of our chronic metabolic dysfunction. Magnesium sits front and center in the cell's power plant, the mitochondrion. It activates ATP, our energy currency. Without magnesium, ATP is useless. Imagine being handed money you're not allowed to spend. And yet, that's what happens when magnesium is missing. The body has energy but can't effectively use it. Fatigue becomes common, muscles weaken, blood sugar rises, the system begins to fail from the inside. So what does the modern diet do? It pours in refined sugar and refined carbs that require even more magnesium to metabolize, while failing to provide the magnesium needed in the first place. It's like revving an engine with no coolant. Eventually, something breaks. Our ancestors didn't live in a world where magnesium was optional. Leafy greens, nuts, legumes, every meal contained natural sources of this mineral. Today, nearly 70% of meals in industrialized societies come from ultra-processed food. And what magnesium exists in those products? Next to none. Processing removes up to 85% of magnesium from grains alone. When you realize that grains are a primary food source for most people, you see the magnitude of the problem. We are collectively starved of a mineral our metabolism cannot function without. But the damage doesn't stop with deficiency. Ultra-processed food actively blocks magnesium absorption and retention. How? Let's count the ways. First, added sugars. High sugar intake spikes insulin, which increases magnesium excretion through the urine. The more sugar you eat, the more magnesium you lose. It's a biochemical mugging, one that happens meal after meal. Second, refined seed oils. These oils are the foundation of fast food, packaged snacks, and restaurant cooking. They drive inflammation and oxidative stress, two processes that burn through magnesium at an accelerated rate. The body must spend magnesium to contain the damage. Third, excess sodium. Ultra-processed food is loaded with salt, and too much sodium forces the kidneys to dump out magnesium in an effort to maintain electrolyte balance. The body sacrifices a vital mineral to deal with the flood of manufactured flavor. Fourth, the microbiome crisis. Fiber, the food of gut bacteria, is removed from ultra-processed foods to improve texture and shelf life. Without fiber, beneficial microbes die off. And those microbes normally help convert magnesium into forms that cells can use. A depleted microbiome means depleted magnesium. So we find ourselves trapped in a vicious cycle. Low magnesium increases metabolic dysfunction. Metabolic dysfunction increases magnesium loss. Ultra-processed food prevents magnesium recovery. That's not a mistake. That's a system failure. And the consequences are visible everywhere. Anxiety, insomnia, muscle spasms, high blood pressure, migraines, insulin resistance, poor recovery, chronic fatigue. These aren't merely personal struggles, they're population-wide symptoms of a diet stripped of what humans require to function. Let's zoom in on stress, arguably the defining condition of modern life. Magnesium acts as nature's brake pedal on the nervous system. It tempers stress hormones, relaxes muscles, supports restorative sleep. But chronic stress, whether external or metabolic, drains magnesium at alarming rates. When magnesium runs low, the stress response becomes exaggerated. The brake line is cut. What do people reach for when they're stressed? Comfort foods, the sugary, ultra-processed kind. And what do those foods do? They drain magnesium even more. It's no coincidence that anxiety and depression have skyrocketed alongside the rise of processed food consumption. The brain is trying to run a biochemical marathon with no fuel for the neurotransmitters that stabilize mood. Let's talk bones, because most people mistakenly think that calcium alone builds strong skeletons. Calcium is the building block, yes, but magnesium is the foreman. It directs calcium where to go, prevents it from depositing in soft tissues, and ensures bone turnover remains balanced. Ultra-processed diets disrupt that balance, leading to brittle bones and calcium buildup where it doesn't belong, in arteries. That's how a magnesium deficiency masquerades as heart disease. Even blood sugar control relies heavily on magnesium. Every step of glucose metabolism requires it. And yet, what do we feed people most? Refined carbs devoid of magnesium. We are literally engineering diabetes at the dinner table. This isn't fate. This is a design optimized for corporate profit, not human biology. Ultra-processed food is cheap to produce, addictive to consume, and lucrative to sell. Magnesium-rich foods, they spoil, they require actual agriculture, not chemical wizardry. Here's a sobering truth. Magnesium deficiency is the predictable consequence of a food system that prioritizes shelf life over human life. But there's another angle that deserves attention. Our soils. Industrial farming depletes magnesium from the earth itself, leaving crops with lower mineral content than those grown 50 years ago. So even when we do choose whole foods, we may not get the magnesium levels our grandparents did. The answer isn't more supplements, it's rebuilding agriculture to restore nutrients where they begin the ground. Still, consider the math of exposure. If 70% of what we eat is processed and nearly all processed foods are magnesium poor, then even nutrient-dense foods in the remaining 30% struggle to compensate. Most people aren't deficient because they made one or two bad choices. They're deficient because the system is set up that way. And yet the narrative we hear is about personal responsibility. Eat better. Take your supplements. Discipline yourself. But how can someone maintain nutrient balance in a world where the default food supply is designed to deprive them? The truth is this: ultra-processed food doesn't just fail to nourish, it actively harms. It consumes magnesium as it enters the body. It robs us of the very mineral required for life's chemical reactions, and then it leaves us with symptoms we treat poorly with more pills. And magnesium pills? They try to paper over a problem caused by the very diet still being consumed. It's like patching a sinking boat while the waves keep pouring in. There's a much smarter solution. Stop the leak. Replace magnesium-draining processed foods with magnesium-rich real ones. Put leafy greens back on plates. Put nuts and seeds back in snacks. Put beans and whole grains back in meals. Not glamorous, not marketable, but profoundly effective. Health starts with what food should be: mineral-dense, fiber-laden, microbiome-nourishing, real. When we remove ultra-processed foods, magnesium levels don't just recover, metabolism recovers, mood stabilizes, sleep improves. The body excretes less magnesium because it finally has an ally instead of an enemy. If we want to restore metabolic health, we must restore magnesium. And if we want to restore magnesium, we must restore real food. We don't have a supplement deficiency. We have a food deficiency. And until we fix that root cause, we will continue to chase symptoms with pills, feeding industries while our cells starve. Magnesium didn't disappear. We just stopped eating where it lives. There's a misconception that health is expensive, that wellness is something you earn only if you can pay for boutique supplements, premium powders, or pills promising miracles in a bottle. But biology has never charged a luxury tax. Nature doesn't reserve nourishment for those who can afford it. Real food, the kind our bodies recognize, remains the most powerful and accessible source of metabolic support. And when it comes to magnesium, one simple, affordable food rises above the rest: beans. Yes, beans. Not flashy, not trendy, no influencer sponsorships, just a humble, ordinary food that your body understands better than any magnesium supplement on the shelf. Beans cost a couple of dollars per bag. They store easily. They're available everywhere. And they are packed with magnesium along with fiber, protein, potassium, and phytonutrients that work together as a biological toolkit. They're not delivering magnesium alone. They're delivering magnesium the way nature engineered it to be delivered. Let's be clear, what makes beans so powerful isn't merely the quantity of magnesium they contain, it's the context in which they deliver it. Magnesium must enter your gut, pass through the intestinal wall, travel in the bloodstream, cross into your cells, and stay there long enough to do its job. Pills often fail one or more of those steps, but beans support every single one. Start with the gut. Beans provide soluble fiber, the favorite food of good gut bacteria. When these bacteria feast, they produce short-chain fatty acids, compounds that strengthen the gut lining and enhance mineral absorption. In other words, eating beans doesn't just supply magnesium, it builds the system that absorbs magnesium. Supplements don't do that. They show up unaccompanied and hope the gut is in a good mood. Next, consider blood sugar regulation. Beans digest slowly thanks to their natural fiber and resistant starch. That keeps insulin levels stable. Why does that matter? Because high insulin triggers magnesium loss through urine. Beans help keep magnesium inside the body instead of washing it away. Contrast that with ultra-processed foods, which spike blood sugar, spike insulin, and drain magnesium as the kidneys scramble to keep up. Beans are the metabolic antidote. Then there's the electrolyte balance. Magnesium doesn't act alone. It keeps peace between calcium, sodium, and potassium, electrolytes that control muscle contraction, heartbeat rhythm, and nerve function. Beans deliver magnesium alongside potassium, restoring the balance that's destroyed by salty processed foods. Once again, nature provides not a nutrient, but a team. Beans also support cholesterol balance and vascular health, both of which depend on magnesium's calming influence inside the arteries. Magnesium keeps blood vessels flexible and responsive. Low magnesium stiffens them, raising blood pressure and increasing cardiovascular strain. Beans counter that, all while reducing inflammation and oxidative stress through their natural antioxidants. Imagine a single food offering better blood sugar control, better gut health, better heart health, better sleep and stress resilience, better energy and muscle function. Not because it's a superfood, but because it supplies the building blocks for normal human physiology. That sets not marketing. That sets metabolism. But if beans are so magical, why aren't we celebrating them? Simple. There's no profit in them. You can't slap a proprietary label on a garbanzo bean. You can't patent a black bean. You can't charge $60 a month for kidney beans in a fancy bottle. The supplement industry wants you to believe pills are superior because selling you pills is their business model. Food companies want you eating their ultra-processed convenience products because those products are cheap to make and expensive to your health. Beans sit in the middle aisle like a quiet rebel saying, "You don't need any of that." Let's step back for a moment and talk about magnesium sepsis' role in the areas most people struggle with today. Chronic stress, magnesium keeps cortisol in check. Sleep problems, magnesium calms the nervous system. Muscle tension, magnesium relaxes fibers and prevents spasms. Migraines, low magnesium destabilizes brain signaling. Fatigue, mitochondria cannot produce energy without magnesium. These aren't rare issues. These are daily complaints. And what solution do we offer? Pills, pills for stress, pills for sleep, pills for pain, pills for energy, pills for blood pressure. A pharmaceutical for every symptom while the underlying deficiency persists. Beans begin correcting this deficiency without a prescription, without side effects, without the digestive backlash that magnesium pills often cause. And here's something remarkable. The more often you eat beans, the better your magnesium status becomes because the gut adapts and becomes more efficient over time. It's a compounding return of nutrition. Supplements cannot remodel your physiology. Beans can. Let's explore another overlooked fact. Beans shift our microbiome towards species linked to longevity. These microbes enhance mineral absorption, reduce systemic inflammation, protect the intestinal barrier, produce neurotransmitters like GABA that calm the brain. The microbiome is not merely a passenger, it's a co-regulator of health, and beans nourish this microbial ecosystem like few other foods can. People worry, but what about the gas? That's not a bug. It's a feature. It's your microbiome waking up. Over a few weeks, as beneficial bacteria grow stronger, discomfort diminishes. The system adapts. That's the beauty of a living body. It responds to real nourishment. Here's an analogy. If you haven't exercised in years, the first workout feels rough. You don't blame the gym. You strengthen the muscles. Beans strengthen the metabolic muscles. Let's also put affordability into perspective. A family-sized bottle of magnesium pills, $25 to $40 a month, depending on the brand. A bag of beans, $2, maybe $3 for organic. One feeds you dinner, real dinner. The other feeds you a hope that your deficiency will improve while the underlying diet remains broken. But magnesium from beans does instead just fill a gap. It fixes the environment that created the gap. It restores soil to plant mineral pathways, plant to human nutrient delivery, human to microbiome symbiosis, cellular to metabolic balance. It repairs the chain of life that processed foods severed. Think back to how we framed magnesium earlier. It is the conductor of the metabolic orchestra. Ultra-processed food fires the orchestra. Supplements hand the conductor a baton but supply no musicians. Beans rehire the entire ensemble. If we want a population with fewer chronic conditions, fewer metabolic diseases, fewer sleep disorders, fewer anxiety symptoms, fewer doctor visits, we need to bring beans back to the table, not as a side dish, as a staple, as central to the plate as they are to human history. Every culture that has achieved longevity, Japan, the Mediterranean, Central America, has relied on beans. They weren't superfoods then, they were just food. We're the first civilization to abandon them in favor of edible products engineered in